Got it. Almost broke a nail doing it.
I don't have more.
Oh no, I'm breaking my case.
I'm sorry. It's fine. My grades have improved, honestly.
Have they?
Yeah. I went from like a 46 to like a 76 today.
46? What were you getting a 46 in?
Science? Because I missed like so many, like, no, it's because
You're
like,
on the internet right now telling everybody you got 46.
oh,
Yeah.
you gotta hear that.
Nobody heard it. There's only one view.
You want me to duct tape it back?
That's good.
Okay. What do I do with this piece of tape? What do I do with my mouth?
Make a fake mustache.
Ooh, no. Then I'm gonna rip my real mustache off.
Shorty, you ready? Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء عند ربهم يرزقون فرحين بما آتاهم الله من فضله ويستبشرون بالذين لم يلحقوا بهم من خلفهم ألا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون يستبشرون بنعمة من الله وفضل وأن الله لا يضيع أجر المؤمنين الذين استجابوا لله والرسول من بعد ما أصابهم القرح للذين أحسنوا منهم واتقوا أجر عظيم الذين قال لهم الناس إن الناس قد جمعوا لكم فاخشوهم فزادهم إيمانا وقالوا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل فانقلبوا بنعمة من الله وفضل لم يمسسهم سوء واتبعوا رضوان الله والله ذو فضل عظيم إنما ذلكم الشيطان يخوف أولياءه فلا تخافوهم وخافون إن كنتم مؤمنين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي فالحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين اللهم اجعلنا منهم ومن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر آمين يا رب العالمين. Once again everyone, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. The portion of Surah Ali Imran that we have reached in this series is a pretty powerful one. We're almost at the end of what Allah has to say about the Battle of Uhud. And we are now going to be dealing with a passage where Allah describes the people that He is proud of. So we've seen lots of passages where He talked about people that He rebuked, and then He redeemed them. And so they made mistakes, and then Allah corrected that. And then there were people that were engaged in hypocrisy, and Allah called them out for their hypocrisy. So we've seen different kinds of groups of people being talked about as part of the post-commentary of Uhud. But now we're getting to the group of people that Allah is extremely pleased with, those that have gone and those that are alive. That's really what this passage is about. Who is Allah Azza wa Jalla extremely happy with and pleased with? So it's a pretty significant passage. And in my understanding of the structure of this portion of the Quran, the reason I recited lots of ayat to you today is from what I can understand, from 169 to 175 of these ayat, it's one section. It's actually one subject matter, all cohesively tied together. However, in the previous session, I did talk to you guys about 169, and I wanted to really just kind of, and I also did talk to you somewhat about 170, but there's no way I can pick up from 170 without going back to 169 because they're grammatically connected to ayat. Though they're two ayat, they're one large sentence. So it's really impossible to just start from 170. So I'm going to take you a step back, translate 169, come to 170, and then we'll go from there. وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا. Don't you dare even think that those that have been killed in Allah's path are dead, or don't you ever imagine them even to be dead. So here's one of those places in the Quran, like I said in the last session, where Allah is even condemning certain kinds of thought. We know that in Islam, certain types of actions or certain kinds of speech are not acceptable. But here is even evidence in Quran that there's some kinds of thinking or opinions, just stuff in your head you never said or did anything about. Even that's not allowed sometimes. And this is one of those things. Don't you dare assume about those who were killed in Allah's path that they're dead. بَلْ أَحْيَاء. No, in fact, they're alive. عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. They're being provided for in the company of their master. Now the first most beautiful thing about this phrase is عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. But أَحْيَاءٌ يُرْزَقُونَ is complete. They're alive, they're being taken care of, they're being provided. But Allah mentions عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ, in the company of their master. And that's actually even before yurzaqun. In other words, the fact that they're being provided is less of a big deal. The fact that they're in the company of Allah is a bigger deal. That was made first, even though they are being provided in the company of Allah, or with their master, right? So yurzaquna inda rabbihim is actually the expected grammatical sequence. But you have inda rabbihim yurzaqun. In fact, in the company of their master, they're being provided. Now we are, close to Allah. Allah says, "Nahnu aqrabu ilayhi min hablil warid." That we're closer to Him than the jugular vein, right? Or when وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيب. When my servant asks you about me, then I'm certainly near. Allah has said multiple times how close He is to us. هُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ. He's with you wherever you are. He said this on several occasions. But this عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ is almost like describing Allah's company, His direct company with them. And they're being, that's bigger than any other rizq. And that theme is going to carry forward. Now, فَرِحِينَ بِمَا آتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. Overjoyed by what Allah has given them. That overjoyed where? In the company of Allah. When we described that contrary scene, I talked to you guys about how there are people that are mourning their death, crying about them, and they're the ones that are overjoyed that they got killed. They're in Allah's company, overjoyed, and the irony is people are crying over them in this life. So they're overjoyed, بِمَا آتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ, on account of what Allah has given them out of His favor. Now here, one more thing that I didn't mention last time, but I think it's worthy of notice. Farh in Arabic is being extremely happy. So sa'ada is happiness, but farh is actually something of like, when somebody gets incredible news and they're overwhelmed with that kind of excitement, that kind of, amazing joy is called farh. Now, in this life, if you go from one extreme, great, exciting, happy news or happy event to another, that becomes a problem. Because, people want to get the next thrill or the next excitement, and that becomes the purpose in life. They get bored easily, and they just want to be excited and entertained all the time. And that addiction is actually something Allah condemns in the Quran. People misunderstand the ayah, لا تفرح إن الله لا يحب الفرحين. Qarun was told, the bad translation says, don't be happy, Allah doesn't like people who get happy. That's not a good translation of that ayah at all. Qarun wasn't told, don't be happy. He was told, don't be addicted to finding joy, extreme joys, one after the other, because he was rich, so he could just go entertain himself any which way. And Allah doesn't like those who just do this with their life. Like they just want to experience joy after joy after joy. Experience moments of happiness after other moments of happiness, after other moments of happiness. The Quran makes it very clear our purpose in this life isn't to seek happiness. So happiness is actually a byproduct of purpose. When you're living a meaningful, purposeful life, then you will get more happy moments. But you can't live in happiness. That's not this religion. It's not the reality either. That's impossible. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Human beings were created in toil and labor. That's why prophets have very difficult, miserable situations that they're in. If anybody deserves to be happy all the time, it should be Allah's prophets. The closer you are to Allah, you should have happy experiences only. That's not this life. That's not how it works. But the reason I brought that up is now we're not talking about this life. We're talking about being in the company of Allah. And He says, فَرِحِينَ بِمَا أَتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ. They're overjoyed, and I would even argue here, forever overjoyed, on account of what Allah gave them. And there's a temporary quality, there's a temporal nature to all things of joy in this life. A young man and a woman get married. The day they get married, there's an overjoy. On their 20th anniversary, there's it's not the same as 20 years ago. That something happened. So, it reaches a certain point where there's a decline in excitement. There's an excitement about getting a new bike, getting a game, moving to a new house, getting a top score in school, graduating. These events are extreme happy events. But if somebody, like I told you last time, somebody comes and says, hey, I heard you graduated. Like, yeah. Then a month later, I heard you graduated. Yeah. 6 months later, I heard you graduated. Yeah, I know, okay, yeah. A year later, yeah, but I can't find a job. So when it first happened, there's extreme joy, and then it kind of wanes off. What Allah is describing about Jannah is وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى in Surah Ash-Shura. It's so beautiful. Whatever Allah has, what's the difference between what Allah will give us in Jannah and what we have here? It's not just that we have oranges here and the oranges in Jannah are way more organic. It's not like that. It's not just that. Or, we got chocolate here, the chocolate there is way better. It's not just that. Allah says it is qualitatively better, khayrun, it's better. But the more important thing is وَأَبْقَى, it's longer lasting. It's lasting. No joy of this world is lasting. It's impossible. What Allah will give them in Jannah, as opposed to what Allah gives us here. Allah will give us joys here, but by definition they will be temporary. Every single one of them. Every single one of those joys will be temporary. When you have a child, there's an overwhelming sense of joy. And that same child will become moments of many, 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 griefs in life later on. With joy and grief and joy and grief. It's going to happen. Both of those things are going to happen. That's life. But in Jannah, whatever He gives you, whatever He gives me, is fariheen. They're constantly overexcited. Bima atahum Allah, on account of what Allah gave them. Like, that's when you get to constantly be in a party, and that's okay. Not this life. Inna Allah la yuhibbul fariheen. Allah doesn't like those who are fariheen, and yet in Jannah they are fariheen. Because it's okay in Jannah. Because that's meant constant joy and excitement and enthusiasm of that kind. That's meant for heaven. So they're overjoyed with what Allah has given them, min fadlihi, out of His own favor. And what that implies is not just something that they expected. When fadl in Arabic actually means a shay idafi. It's something additional. So Allah gave them not just what He promised, but Allah gave them out of His special favor, stuff they weren't even expecting. Like, people ask, sometimes, younger kids also, because the younger kids get bored easily, right? They move on from one video game to another, one device to another, one group of friends to another. They move on quickly. So one kid one time asked me, actually, many kids have asked me, one conversation sticks out, he goes, isn't Jannah going to get boring? Like, it's like if I play basketball, I'm never going to miss. Everything's going to go in. So it's like not even an excitement to take a shot. Because it's just going to go in. Watch this. And it goes in. Because you can't miss in Jannah, right? So I was like, it's a really good question. فَرِحِينَ بِمَا آتَاهُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ means there's a kind, we know of what things are exciting in this life. We know what makes us feel good in this life. But there's some additional stuff Allah has in His special storage that only comes out in Jannah that is beyond our imagination. And that's captured also inside min fadlihi. But then He says, وَيَسْتَبْشِرُونَ بِالَّذِينَ لَمْ يَلْحَقُوا بِهِمْ مِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ. And they're overjoyed, they're feeling so happy about those who haven't joined them that are behind them. Meaning, the people that are still in the world, that are struggling and they haven't gone in the ground yet, they haven't met with Allah yet, they're not experiencing the joys of heaven that the shuhada are experiencing, but they can watch, like you're rooting for your team, watching on the big screen. They're like in Jannah rooting for the team, like they're coming, they're doing good. And they're congratulating each other. Oh, he's not shaheed yet? Okay, inshallah, he's coming. Make dua for him. And they're like excited about the people who haven't joined them in heaven. Here we are crying about them, they left us. And they're excited about you haven't joined yet. Like it's the other camera angle. So it's the equation that's been flipped in وَيَسْتَبْشِرُونَ بِالَّذِينَ لَمْ يَلْحَقُوا بِهِمْ مِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ أَلَّا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. And then, why are they so happy for us that we could join them eventually? Like the shuhada of Badr, 70 of them were martyrs, right? Allah is describing, you're crying over those who died. Let me tell you, they're way happier than you guys are. You're mourning about their death. They're up in Jannah and they're super happy. And let me tell you what they're happy about for you. They're happy about a time where all of this life is going to end. You're going to be in Allah's company. Allah khawfun alayhim wa lahum yahzanun. They're not going to have any fear. These people that are still in the world, they're no longer going to experience fear, anxiety, worry about the future. That's khawf. Wa lahum yahzanun. And they're not going to be looking at the past and be depressed about their mistakes or missed opportunities or regrets or resentments or anger about what happened before. All of that's yahzanun. Like these emotions that are like dark clouds in our lives are going to clear. when we go in Allah's company. And one of the greatest things there, what's worthy of contemplation here is that these are people in heaven. We're getting an idea of what makes them happy in heaven, in Jannah. And Allah did not describe here in Jannah their homes or rivers. He does that other places. He didn't do that here. Or the food they're going to eat. He didn't give us any of that. But He says what excites them about you and me going there is that these feelings that wear us down will no longer exist. لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. That's what excites them. And they've experienced that now. They're in Allah's company. That's what true joy is. But this is again an important comparison. In this life, somebody's overwhelmed, they're stressed out, they're angry about something, resentful, they feel stuck, they feel, cornered, whatever. They say, man, I need a break. And they want to do something that makes them happy. So they watch a movie or something. They watch a comedy to make themselves laugh. Or they go out and play some sports. Or they go to the gym or something. Or they go for a run. Or they do something, right? Or they play a video, something. Or they go hang out with friends and go have dinner. Or they go for a walk. They do these things. But you know what? Even when you do these things, there's stuff in the background that's still there. And you just shoved it in a corner for a little bit so you could feel better. But it didn't disappear. It actually didn't disappear. And you say, you know what? I need a break. I'm going to go to the beach. I'm taking a flight to California. I'm just going to sit at the beach. You could sit at the beach, but in the back of your head, you're still sitting in the same problem that you were when you were here. That didn't leave. It's still there. Because we can change our environments. We can change our food. We can change our company. We cannot change these emotions that are inside us, that are lingering, that cannot be escaped. We have to deal with them. What Allah gives us in Jannah, and by the way, because of that, sometimes you can experience what other people will only dream of. You can be in the most beautiful places. You can have the most delicious food. You can have the most incredible society or company. You could have what everybody else says, man, I wish I had that, and you're not happy. You're just not happy. Because there's khawf and huzn. There's anxiety about the future or some resentment about the past that's taking taste and joy away from anything you're experiencing right now. It's just taking it away. You have it, and other people would die for it, and you have it right in front of you, and you can't enjoy it. Or you're sitting there crying. You're sitting on the most beautiful beach, you take a picture, and you send it to a friend, like, man, if I was there, subhanAllah, this place, if this is so beautiful, what's Jannah going to look like? And truly, there are places in this world that are so beautiful, they're a glimpse of heaven. They are. And you're there, sitting there crying. Why are you crying? This should be a happy time. You pay good money to come here and not cry. But you can't escape khawf and huzn. That's something that lingers. Allah says about these people, they're so happy for you and me, that at some level, khawf and huzn is part of our life. Fear and grief, fear of the future and grief of the past is inescapable. These are inescapable negative feelings that will always be there. In some degree, we can manage them because of our faith. We can deal with them, but you can't erase them. But one of the great joys of Jannah is I can't wait till they experience what it means to eat food or to enjoy company, and there's nothing in the back of your head. There's no fear about what's going to happen in the future. A mother can be playing with her child and holding him and hugging him, and yet she's having the most beautiful moment with her child, and she's worried what's going to happen tomorrow. Is he going to get sick? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? She can't escape the fear of the future. You see? This is something that Allah has promised us about Jannah. And this is something that those who came before us, that Allah has granted Jannah already too because they're shuhada, are excited that we're going to experience one day. May Allah make us of them. يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ بِنِعْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَفَضْلٍ. Now, conventionally, Mufassirun have looked at ayah number 171 and said that this is a repetition of what's already been said to reinforce it. In other words, we just read, وَيَسْتَبْشِرُونَ. They're feeling congratulated. They feel happy about us not joining them yet, or we're ready to join. And so it's again, وَيَسْتَبْشِرُونَ. They're feeling congratulated. They're feeling happy. About what? بِنِعْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَفَضْلٍ. They're feeling happy because of the favor of Allah and the blessing of Allah and His favor. And so people look at this ayah and say, some have said, this is reinforcing what's been said before. But when I was discussing this with Sheikh Suhaib Saeed today, may Allah reward him, I told him, I don't see that here. I'm thinking this is connected to those who are still in the world. So let me tell you what this means. We started with people in heaven. They're excited about the people on earth still alive, struggling. Yeah? And because the ayah just ended with those who are still in the world, not having gone back to Allah yet, the next ayah said, why can't the next ayah be looked at as still talking about those who are in this world? Not about those who are in the next. We already heard about the joys of those that are in the afterlife. What about the people that are in this life? Can they have some joy also? Is there joy for them too? Or is it joy can only wait in the afterlife? Now this is an important question because in many denominations of the Christian faith, not all, but many, this world is supposed to be misery. We were brought here as a punishment. We were born in sin. It's not supposed to be a place you're supposed to enjoy. Real joy is somewhere else. And by the way, some of that doctrine made its way into Muslim thinking, in many Muslims thinking, this world is just torture. Akhirah Jannah is the only thing. This is nothing. And they take some hadith and some ayat of the Quran out of context and blow that out of proportion and say this world is just a place of misery and suffering. And yeah, sure, there's difficulty here, there's misery here, but it would be extremely ungrateful to Allah to say there's no joy in this life. There's no wonderful things in this life. There's no tranquility in this life. There's no blessings in this life. That would be ungrateful to Allah. Ya Allah, I guess you're going to keep me miserable right now. I'll have to wait till Jannah, I suppose. No, you will have a mix of all things, but you can't deny the blessings that Allah gives in this life. So Ibn Ashur rahimahullah actually supported this opinion also, and I found some validation in his opinion. He holds the view that this ayah is actually talking about those who haven't yet joined people that have passed. They're still here struggling. But in the context of Uhud, this is why it's critical. All of these ayat are about Uhud. In the context of Uhud, those that are left behind are mourning. They just lost. Their prophet is injured. They suffered economic losses, political losses, military losses, emotional losses, spiritual losses. They got rebuked by Allah. All this stuff happened. Doesn't sound like joy, but he says they are feeling overjoyed by a favor that came from Allah. And my reading of that favor that came from Allah, among other opinions of that tafsir, is actually the words of Allah that came in the midst of misery. The words of Allah that came in the midst of that misery were a reason to be overjoyed. For someone to understand that in the middle of all this chaos, maybe I had to go through this chaos so these words of Allah could come to life in my heart. And why should I not be overjoyed that Allah decided to speak to me? يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ بِنِعْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. Well, and then on top of that, the additional favor of Allah, Allah didn't just speak to us, He also offered us redemption. He said, look, you made this mistake and I've forgiven you. You made this mistake and I've forgiven you. وَلَقَدْ عَفَى عَنْهُ وَلَقَدْ عَفَى اللَّهُ عَنْهُ. He pardoned. So an additional favor from Allah came. Others said the ni'mah of Allah is that they, their sincerity and their acts, and there are lots of different interpretations. But I'm sharing with you what I find really compelling. And there are, again, multiple ways of looking at these two phrases. نِعْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَفَضْلٍ. But then this last part, وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, is the most beautiful part. One of the most powerful teachings of the Quran, that Allah will not put to waste the compensation guaranteed for those who truly have faith. Our compensation does not have to do only with good deeds. Our compensation has to do with the fact that those deeds were done in true faith. So it's not the prayer that's rewarded alone. It's the prayer with faith that none of these prayers have ever gone to waste. When someone prays and said, I keep praying but Allah doesn't answer my prayers, then they're not praying with faith. They don't have iman that this is getting some ajr. I'm doing it because I guess I'm still waiting for Allah to deliver His word, His relief, but I guess I'll still do it until then. No. He says, these people feel joy because they never associate their misery and attribute it to Allah as if all the good they did went to waste somehow. No. They have that's what gives them joy in this life. It doesn't matter what they're going through. Okay, we lost at Uhud, but we made an effort, and Allah rewarded the fact that I left home. Allah rewarded that I did my best. Allah rewarded that I repented. The effort I made did not go to waste. أَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. You've heard me say this 1,000,000 times. I don't care. I'll say it again 1,000,001 times. Allah is not interested on Judgment Day, and even now, Allah is not interested in accomplishments. People are. People are interested in a degree, or how much money you made, or whether or not you won a battle. People are interested in what you were able to buy or not buy, what you qualified for or didn't qualify for. How many people, appreciated your work or didn't appreciate your work. These are human measurements. To Allah, when a believer has a real relationship with Allah, then the only thing they're concerned with is what I did in true faith. I know Allah will not let this act of mine. Whether nobody appreciated it. Nobody came, nobody appreciated it, nobody liked it, I didn't get paid. Nothing worked out the way I thought it would. It was an Uhud. But the deeds I did didn't go to waste. The compensation, Allah will not waste it. Allah will not say, oh, you want me to pay you for this? For Uhud, you want me to pay you? This failure? And you want to get paid? No, yeah, Allah made effort. Yep, that's what I love for you. And Allah la yudi'u ajra al-mu'minin. It's such a beautiful promise, and it gives a believer joy. And it gives them clarity of what they're working towards. For a man and a woman to work towards something. By the way, at the end of this surah, I am not going to put to waste, the work of any one of you who does any good work, man or woman. Min dhakarin aw untha. You come from one another. That's the phrase he uses at the end, to remind us over and over again of something. Allah is interested in us finding joy in our efforts to Him. A day, 24 hours, limited 24 hours, some of them went to sleep, some of them went into commuting to work, some of them went into getting some rest or eating food or whatever else. A day is worth it, is a success. When I did something that I know Allah will not let go to waste. I earned a halal living. I stayed away from haram. I prayed my prayers on time. I obeyed Allah's commands. I didn't use my tongue in a way that I wasn't supposed to. I didn't use my eyes in a way that I wasn't supposed to. That was a successful day. And Allah will not waste this compensation. And maybe the compensation of this good day is going to come to me in this life, and maybe in this life and the next life is guaranteed, but maybe also in this life. Who knows? Because they're overjoyed by the favor of Allah, and the fadl. Fadl means additional. Additional can be in this life and in the next life. It could be both. But I know one thing, Allah won't let it go to waste. What came of those prayers? How did I don't see how I got rewarded. No, you don't got to see nothing. You just need to know Allah won't put it to waste. That's all. That's enough. That iman is enough for me to have joy that it didn't go anywhere. الَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا لِلَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ. Now we move further about these people. Who are these people? Who have experienced loss, who have experienced tragedy, and yet they are still optimistic. Yet they don't think that they lost. What's the further quality of these people? And again, these are people that the people in heaven are celebrating, right? That they keep that connection. How is it that these people are celebrating? What qualities do they have? الَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا لِلَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ. Those who responded to Allah and the Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the first, the most popular interpretation of this ayah has to do with what happened after Uhud was over. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was on the mountain. Abu Sufyan talked trash from the bottom, tried to put us down. Then the armies of Abu Sufyan and the Quraysh left. When they left, a little bit further on their way to their return, they had second thoughts. Man, the Muslims are injured. The Prophet was almost killed. If we go back now, we can maybe finish the job. Their defenses are down. So if we come for this would be wave number 3, right? So wave 1 was unsuccessful. Wave 2, they came back and hurt us good. And now they're thinking, maybe we should have just finished the job. So they're thinking about coming back for a wave 3. It so happened that a supporter of Muslims, not a Muslim, but a supporter of Muslims, got wind that they're having this discussion because he was on his commute to Medina. And he found out that they're coming. And he sort of, news came to the Prophet ﷺ that they're coming back for round 3. And the Prophet, you have to understand this visually. The Prophet ﷺ is injured. Himself is injured. He was almost killed. Several Sahaba are lying there dead and mutilated. Many are deeply injured themselves. They have arrows piercing into their bodies. And the Prophet ﷺ says, we're not going to wait for them to come here and attack. We're going to go after them. Some of these people can't even stand up straight. And he says, we're going to go after them. In sports, they say the best defense is offense. That's what he says. Let's go. Like who's going to get up? Now they're just demoralized right now. And they got the news that they're coming back again. When you get the news that they're coming back again, you'll be like, again? How are we going to? And the Prophet ﷺ says, no. And they're thinking, what's the most secure place we can be this time? And the Prophet ﷺ is saying the opposite. No. This time, we're going after them. And these Sahaba are such incredible people. You know what they did? They did what Allah describes in this ayah. Those who responded to Allah and the Messenger even after injury had touched them. Let's go. You say jump, we say how high. Ready to go. And istijaba doesn't just mean to respond, it means to try to respond, to want to respond. Almost capturing, some of them are like falling as, Ya Rasulullah, I'm coming. What a powerful inspiration that those who fall realize that when Allah does not waste effort, even my limping is going to be rewarded. I'm going to limp because victory doesn't come from my inability. Victory comes from Allah. And if Allah has not written victory, تِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ, these are days we flip between people anyway. I'm not getting up for victory. I'm getting up because Allah and His Messenger called. That's why I got to get up. There's not enough breaths in this life for me to waste. So yes, I'm hurt. Yes, I'm demoralized. Yes, my brother died. Yes, my family members are crying. But Allah and His Messenger just called. And I am deeply hurt myself. I'm physically injured, emotionally injured. And they get up. Those who got up, those who tried to respond and responded to Allah and the Messenger, even after injury had touched them. There's another beautiful thing here. The wow can be looked at as wow bayaniya. Those who responded to Allah, that is to say, they responded to the Messenger. In other words, when the Messenger ﷺ demanded something, they didn't see a difference between that and who demanding it? Allah demanding it, because He's Allah's spokesperson. He speaks on behalf of Allah. So they see a human being. They don't worship that human being. But they understand that His demands on them are not His demands. His demands He's representing the demands made by Allah. They're clear about that. We're not following a man. And when you follow a man, you're like, you want us to go back? This isn't enough? You're not in the state to go back yourself. But they know that it's not His demand. It's Allah's. So they can see past Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they can tell that this is actually from Allah. That's actually real iman. That's real iman. That a commandment comes and instead of saying this is not logical, this is not good strategy, how does this make any sense, this doesn't even apply, we're not in the circumstance where we can fulfill Allah's word, all these excuses that are going to be echoed through the centuries in different situations. And yet the response to that is, I'm ready to respond, even though I'm hurt, even though injury has hit me. How many of us are going to hide behind being hurt to not obey Allah? Like Allah just told you to get up. And He may ask you something harder than He did the first time. Because the first time you were going to defend from home turf. Now you're going into enemy territory. He's asking you to be brave for Him. On top of that, you're not in your full strength. And yet He's asking. And so لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا مِنْهُمْ وَاتَّقَوْا. Ya Rabb, what an incredible thing. Taqwa is consciousness of Allah. It's to be aware of Allah. It's to not disappoint Allah. It's to protect yourself from displeasing Allah. All of those things are taqwa. And when you have taqwa, then it increases your iman. When you increase your iman, it gives you more taqwa. And then increases your iman. And then it gives you more taqwa. And then eventually you reach a place when your iman is so amazing, it becomes ihsan. Ihsan means you've reached the highest level of iman. Right? You guys know the famous hadith about Islam, iman and ihsan. And there's an ayah in the Quran like that in Surah Al-Ma'idah where the climax of it, taqwa increases, then iman increases, then taqwa increases, and then ahsan. And they become people of ihsan. But in this ayah, remarkably, Allah says, لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا مِنْهُمْ وَاتَّقَوْا. The sequence is actually, and they had taqwa, and that taqwa led them to become people of ihsan, to excel. No, not in this ayah. In this ayah, Allah says, those who excelled among them, those who did their very best among them, and they had taqwa. As if to say, their urge to do their very best in front of Allah overtook all other fears and emotions. And when they got up and they did what they decided to do, what they were going to do for Allah, because that was, I don't want to think about anything else. But when they got up and they knew that they were about to face an enemy that's scary, then came taqwa. No, I'm not going to be scared of anyone else. When I have Allah, I'll seek Allah's protection. So that, because the first impulse is to protect yourself. Right? But these remarkable human beings, Allah describes their excellence, that they were able to put their injury aside, they were able to put their fear aside, and they were people of excellence. I just want to be my very best before Allah, because I know He's not going to waste any reward of mine. And then when fear came, they demonstrated taqwa. They had only fear of Allah. وَاتَّقَوْا أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ. These people have amazing compensation. That's an amazing compensation. By the way, this scene, they're getting up, they're about to go. Is everybody willing to go? No. Is some people saying this is crazy? What are you going to do? You're going to get killed. Are you serious right now? We barely survived. And what's going to happen next? الَّذِينَ قَالَ لَهُمُ النَّاسُ إِنَّ النَّاسَ قَدْ جَمَعُوا لَكُمْ فَاخْشَوْهُمْ. Those who, when they got up, people said to them, there's no doubt about it, people have gathered against you. Everybody's gathered, unified against you. Everybody's ganged up against you. You should be afraid of them. What is wrong with you? You're walking into suicide. إِنَّ النَّاسَ قَدْ جَمَعُوا لَكُمْ فَاخْشَوْهُمْ. And this is a very realistic statement. Allah didn't just say, إِنَّ قُرَيْشًا جَمَعُوا لَكُمْ إِنَّ الْأَحْزَابَ جَمَعُوا لَكُمْ. No. He said, إِنَّ النَّاسَ جَمَعُوا لَكُمْ. Because He wanted, there's this ayah, it seems the intent of this ayah is to be something that echoes throughout the ages. There are going to be times where you are about to take a step because you want to respond to Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You want to take that step. And there are going to be people around you that are Muslim. These were Muslims too. There are going to be Muslims around you, those who love and care for you. And they're going to say, listen, if you do this, people are going to turn against you. You should be afraid of people. This is not going to be good for you. And sometimes those people could be outside society. It could be as simple as some girl decides to put a hijab on for the first time in her life, and her family says, you're going to get harassed. We're living under the Trump administration. Use common sense. This is not what you should be doing. It could be somebody living in, a place where Muslims are banned from practicing their religion. You're going to pray, or you're going to get killed. Don't pray. There are places like that in the world today. And their family members are telling them, you should be afraid of people. You should take precaution. You shouldn't just pray like that. You shouldn't just look like that. You shouldn't just say those things. What's going to happen if you do that? Or something as simple as somebody got invited to the Christmas party at work, and they're holding the Christmas party and there's going to be drinking, and there's going to be this or that or the other, right? Or the office party. Don't turn it down. You're not going to get that promotion. They don't even like you already, and now you're going to cut yourself off. You might just lose your job. You should be a little bit more afraid of what people are capable of doing to you. Be sensible. Keep that in mind and read this ayah. الَّذِينَ قَالَ لَهُمُ النَّاسِ إِنَّ النَّاسَ قَدْ جَمَعُوا لَكُمْ فَاخْشَوْهُمْ. Those when people said to them, there are people that are gathered against you. Everybody's lined up against you for the purpose of destroying you. Therefore, you should be afraid of them. فَاخْشَوْهُمْ فَقَالُوا. So, فَاخْشَوْهُمْ فَزَادَهُمْ إِيمَانًا. When people tried to scare them and intimidate them about the dangers that are coming, what was their response? فَزَادَهُمْ إِيمَانًا. Allah says that intimidation only made them stronger in their faith. فَزَادَهُمْ إِيمَانًا. It increased them in iman. It increased them in faith. Because why would it increase them in faith? It's a weird thing. When people come under pressure, when Muslims come under pressure, because we're not like everybody else. If you stand out too much, then people are going to be turned against you. Maybe you should change your values a little bit. Maybe you should take political opinions. Maybe you should stand next to people that you don't believe in their values. But if you do that, then you don't have to be afraid of them. Otherwise, they'll all attack you, right? So you should just soften up a little. وَدُّوا لَوْ تُدْهِنُونَ فَيُدْهِنُونَ. If you soften a little, they'll soften a little. They want that you give up a little, and then they'll give up a little. Compromise. Because you have to live in this world after all. You have to give some give and take. These people realized that Allah is making obeying Him even harder right now because of these people. And the harder it gets, the more I'm going to get rewarded. Ya Allah, you just honored me by making the good deed harder because you want me to get more reward. I feel honored. I feel even more iman. And they even say, فَلَمَّا رَأَى الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الْأَحْزَابَ قَالُوا هَذَا مَا وَعَدَنَا اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. When they see people in Surah Al-Ahzab, when they see the gatherings of people coming against them, you know what they say? Instead of saying, what are we going to do? They say, هَذَا مَا وَعَدَنَا اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. This is what Allah and His Messenger promised. Things are going to get harder. That's what they promised. وَصَدَقَ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. And Allah and His Messenger spoke the truth. Wow. I see another miracle. The word of Allah coming true. What's the word of Allah coming true? Things just got harder. Things got more intimidating. Things got scarier. And so it increased them even more in faith. Instead of them becoming afraid of people, they became more fearless. They became more attached to Allah. وَقَالُوا. And then they responded, حَسْبُنَ Allah is enough for us. Allah is enough for us. What a small thing to say, and what a world it changes for a person. To say, Allah is enough for me. And it's not just Allah is enough for me. What Allah wants me to do, I'm going to do, because when I do that, then Allah will be enough for me. You don't get to say these words for cheap. You don't get to disobey Allah and then say Allah is enough for me. You don't get to walk away from Allah's commandments and then say Allah is enough for me. These people are hurt. And every impulse in their body says, save yourself. And don't respond to Allah and the Messenger. But these people responded to Allah and the Messenger. And Allah gave them the biggest, most valuable gift a human being can ever have in this life. That's Iman increased. Iman increased. And then they're comfortable saying, I don't have weapons. I don't even have 2 feet anymore. I don't have a lot of blood left in my body. Allah is enough though. Hasbunallah. Wa ni'mal wakeel. And what an incredible caretaker of situations. Wakeel. The formal English translation says disposer of affairs. The only time when I was in New York, the only time I heard disposal was garbage. Or like in mafia movies, like he's been disposed of. So I want to use normal English. Allah, there's no ni'mal wakeel. Ni'm is actually from af'al al-ta'ajjub. What better, what more awesome entity can there be? Who more awesome can there be to take care of any situation? So someone who takes care of a situation is called a wakeel. Wakeel also means someone who you rely on, you leave the matter to them. They're your wakeel. Wakeel means, hey, listen, I'm traveling, you take care of the house. Here's the keys. They're the wakeel. They're going to take care of everything. Hey, I don't know how to fill out this paperwork, you do it. You're the wakeel. You take care of it. Who better to leave what you cannot control except in Allah's hands? How do you leave it in Allah's hands? By responding to Allah and the Messenger. It's not just, I left it to Allah. I eat a lot of haram, but I've left it to Allah. You didn't leave nothing to Allah. Those are just empty words. When you and I respond to Allah and the Messenger, even when it hurts, even when it's hard, even when it's scary, even when it's intimidating, even when you know people will stand tall against you, then you realize, whose protection are you do you really believe in? Do I really believe in the protection of people, or do I believe in the protection of Allah? Sometimes, we think about shirk, we think about idols, statues that people bow down before. But there are invisible statues that people worship. Because worshipping Allah isn't just making prayers to God. Worshipping Allah means you fear no one more than you fear Him. You can have fear, but none more than Him. You're not loyal to anyone more than Him. You don't owe anyone more than Him. You're not scared of anyone more than you are of Him. You could be scared of disobeying a police officer, that's natural, but you should be way more scared of disobeying Allah. And if the fear of other things is more, and the fear of disobeying Allah is less, then how is He the supreme being in your heart? How is He Ahad? How is He Akbar? That is just words. That is just words. And if in your head the only way you can take care of your situation is by your own calculations, if I just bend the rules a little here, play a little here, ignore Allah's words a little there, then my situation will get resolved. Who's the wakil? Who's taking care of who's the disposer of your affairs? Who's taking care of your situation? You've got a better plan than Allah's own words, than Allah Himself. Then you don't get to say wa ni'mal wakil. Then I don't get to say that. If you and I want to say that, then you got to live it. Then you have to let go. I'm going to follow Allah's word. Let the chips fall where they may, because Allah makes the chips fall where they do. It's not random. It's not chaos. The only chaos is in disobedience to Allah. That's the only chaos. Allah knows how to keep things in order. Allah has created the perfect order for the sun to rise and fall. Allah has created the perfect order for water to reach every branch of a tree, for a leaf to come out. And that's by the word of Allah. It's because of the word of Allah, kun, that stuff happens. So why is it that I think if I follow the word of Allah, there will be chaos? No, if you go against the word of Allah, there will be chaos. But in your head, in my head, no, if we follow the word of Allah, it's going to be too hard. These people realize, no, nobody can take care of things. The one who's taking care of the universe. The one who's taking care of every beat of my heart. The one who's keeping my eyelids moist. He's pretty good at taking care of stuff. I should be okay with letting Him take care of my situation by following His word. Because everything else is okay only because He made it okay. Everything else is in order because He kept it in order. So if the sun in the sky isn't evidence enough that He's pretty good at taking care of things, what else is there going to be? Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. And so then the trial, and I'll just do two more ayah, actually one more ayah, because I want to come back to this entire passage tomorrow. And we'll look at it a different way tomorrow. So the way I'll wrap it up for today by up to 175, and we'll come back to these passage again and look at it an entire other way, and I'll show you why that's important, because there's a duality intended, it seems, in this passage. But anyway, فَانْقَلَبُوا بِنِعْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَفَضْلٍ. Then they came back. Therefore, they came back by a special favor or blessing from Allah and an additional favor on top of that. نِعْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَفَضْلٍ. What does that mean? The Prophet ﷺ tells these Muslim battalions, what's left of them, to go out in offense, yeah? So they go out to meet the enemy. The enemy gets wind that Abu Sufyan gets wind, man, Muslims are coming back. And this time they're ready. Man, the only time we were able to get at them is when we got them by surprise attack. But every time we've gone head to head and they're prepared, Badr didn't work out our way. Stage 1 of Uhud didn't work out our way. This looks like round 3, and if they're ready for us, we're not going to make it. So they ran. They never showed, even though they had superior numbers. We had almost nothing, and yet they ran, and the Prophet ﷺ stayed there for a few days at the meeting point, the critical juncture, and then they headed back. And when they headed back, Allah says, then they returned back from Allah's favor. By Allah's blessing, a special blessing from Allah. Ni'matin min Allah. What's the ni'mah of Allah? They never had to touch battle. Wa fadlin, and an additional favor. What's an additional favor? Instead of the one having officially lost the battle feeling afraid, it's the supposed victor that's feeling afraid. How are you going to win a war or win a battle and run? Because the entire point was to create intimidation in the region. They're intimidated. That's an additional favor from Allah. Lam yamsasum su. No harm touched them. Lam yamsasum su. Another beautiful phrase. No harm touched them. It doesn't just mean no swords hit them, no arrows hit them. It also means inside of them. No fear was able to get to them. No grief was able to get to them. Allah secured their bodies just as He secured their hearts. No harm was able to touch. Because the word su or sa'a or si'a, the passive form, is used in the Quran for also feeling bad. Bad feelings were not able to get to them. Allah protected their hearts. وَاتَّبَعُوا رِضْوَانَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ ذُو فَضْلٍ عَظِيمٍ. If I go into وَاتَّبَعُوا رِضْوَانَ اللَّهِ, it's going to take too long, but I'll try to do this in 5 minutes and wrap it up. We won't do 175. We'll wrap at 174. وَاتَّبَعُوا رِضْوَانَ اللَّهِ is a small phrase, but it packs a mountain in it. Read it carefully. They followed the pleasure of Allah. They followed the pleasure of Allah. At face value, That doesn't make sense. You can pursue the favor of Allah, yes? You can go after the pleasure of Allah. You can seek the pleasure of Allah. That's وَابْتَغَوْا رِضْوَانَ اللَّهِ. And that's used other places in the Quran. ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ. To pursue the pleasure of Allah. But the ayah isn't they pursued the pleasure of Allah. The ayah is they followed the pleasure of Allah, which is a little bit of an ishkal. How do you follow the pleasure of Allah? Actually, it would be much easier to say they followed the command of Allah. They followed the word of Allah, right? That is not easier to understand. They followed the word of Allah. And it's a lot harder to understand they followed the pleasure of Allah. Allah deliberately replaced the word of Allah, or the call of Allah, with what word? The pleasure of Allah. Why would He do that? To tell us something. From Allah's divine wisdom, there's no difference between following the word of Allah, because to Allah, when the word of Allah is followed, what you actually followed is a road that every step of it is just the pleasure of Allah. Like Allah's command and Allah being happy with you are one and the same thing. Following Allah's word and making Allah content with you are one and the same thing. They're not two separate things. And if you internalize that, you know what that means? The question, how do I know if Allah is happy with me? People have this mysterious question. How do I know where I stand with Allah? Ayat like this answer the question very simply. What you following? What you following? You're following Allah's word? He's happy with you. Because His word is His happiness with you. Your loyalty to His word is guaranteeing that He's content with you. And the ayah ends, Wallahu dhu fadlin adhim. This is where it really hits you. And Allah is a possessor of great favor. Please listen. When we started this passage, was there not mention of Jannah? They're being provided for. They're happy about what Allah has given them. Remember that? They're happy about what Allah has given them. Let me help you understand the remarkable conclusion of Jannah here. Why is this so critical? You see, I'll give you by analogy, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. Allah has the highest example, but to help you understand the point, I'll give you an example. I have a child, I have a son. I buy him a video game. I buy him a bicycle. I buy him clothes. I buy him stuff. Does he appreciate it? Sure. I can give him things. But one day I come to him and I put my arms around him. And I put my arm around him and say, son, I'm proud of you. You did so good. I validate him. I make him feel valuable. I make him feel like that I'm actually really happy with him. I'm really happy with him. What of those two things are going to live with this child for years? 20 years later, a son is having an argument with a father, and the father says, I got you everything. I got you toys. I got you shoes. Yeah, but you never cared. You never once made me feel like I'm worth anything. Stuff. You gave me stuff. But you never loved me. What do you mean I didn't love you? You never said anything. You were never proud of me. But I was. I gave you all that stuff. No, but that's just stuff. You can get stuff, and we can give stuff out of love. But there's a special category when you give validation. When you say, I'm proud of you. You did good. You've made me happy. I am so content with you. I have no complaints with you. That's a different category, isn't it? In Jannah, Allah is giving us things in the beginning. He's giving us things. He's عند ربهم يرزقون فرحين بما آتاهم الله من فضله. He's giving them stuff. I'm sure they're getting food. I'm sure they're getting drinks. I'm sure they're getting لحم طير مما يشتهون. They're getting flesh of birds, the kind that they love to eat. They're getting great company. They're getting all these mansions, palaces, waterfall, all of it. And then they get Allah telling them, I'm happy with you. All those other rewards, all those bonuses, pale in comparison to Allah Himself meeting with His slave and telling him, you did good. I'm pleased with you. How different, again, I'll give you an analogy. Somebody's an employee in a big company, they got 500 employees, 5,000 employees. You can get a bonus. right? You get a bonus at the end of the year. What if the CEO of the company, and you're just one small employee, CEO of the company comes over to your desk and says, I'm really proud of what you're doing. I'm really happy with your work. Is that more valuable to an employee than a bonus? Like, me? You sure? The manager's over there. No, me? There's like Ibrahim alayhi salam and Musa alayhi salam, and there's prophet. You're talking to me? You're happy with me? I'm that important? I'm that valued? I'm that acknowledged? Then you appreciate this phrase. They followed, what did they follow? The pleasure of Allah. As if, think of it visually. They're following a road into Jannah on Judgment Day, yeah? They're following a road that leads to Jannah. But the gates of Jannah are not the pleasure of Allah. But there's a climax inside Jannah where you actually get to meet with Allah Himself. Salamun qawlan min Rabbir Rahim. The Rabb Rahim is going to say salam to you Himself. They followed the road that leads all the way to the experience where they get to see Allah content with them. And then you appreciate this last ayah, this last phrase, Wallahu dhu fadlin azim. And Allah possesses an incredible favor. What bigger favor than that? This is, before we saw ni'matin min Allahi wa fadlin. We saw that. But now it's dhu fadlin azim. What greater favor than that? That we're going to get that. A believer has to try and live his or her life to ask themselves one straight question. If Allah took me today, can I stand in front of Allah and expect Allah to say, you did good. You did good. I'm proud of you. You followed the road that leads to me. وَجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ إِلَى رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ إِلَى رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ. Some faces on that day are going to be lit with light as they stare at their master. That's what Allah says. That's not an easy thing to earn. It's not an easy question to ask yourself every day, a real question at the end of a day. I ask myself, I ask yourself. You ask yourself. Was today one of those days where I can actually, the angel can come and take me and I can turn in front of Allah and say, Ya Allah, I made tawbah to you. I obeyed you. Every impulse to disobey you was there and I left it. I followed you. I let go. I let go of my anger. I let go of my greed. I let go of my impulses. I let go of my laziness. I let go. And I obeyed you when I wasn't feeling like it. I did it. I was hurt. When I was hurt, when I'm hurt, I want to check out. I don't care about anything. I don't care about prayer. I don't care about anything. But I was hurt and I still prayed. I was hurt and I still cried to you. I was hurt and I still stuck to what's right. I had injury. I didn't matter because I want to see this day. Those people, they get وَاتَّبَعُوا رِضْوَانَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ ذُو فَضْلٍ عَظِيمٍ. And these are the people that the people in Jannah are excited about. Man, when they see how happy Allah is with them. May Allah Azza wa Jal make all of us from among them. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Qur'an al-Hakim wa nafa'ani wa iyyakum bil ayati wa dhikr al-Hakim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It wasn't even an hour. It was like a few minutes, under an hour. Assalamu alaikum.
He got me that hat. He got me this hat.
Look at the crispy hairline.
Okay, just cut it off. Crispy hairline, get touchy.